You're listening to No Limits Radio Show on the Vets on Media Network.
Good morning.
Good morning, Christina. Note to self, this is the first day I've done this, so give me a second.
All right. Well, let's get some of those levels.
What would you like, honey? No, I can do it. Are you a little too loud?
I am really loud. Like I am just hearing me so loud in my head.
No, it just stopped. I turned it down a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
It should be better now.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. If you are listening live, I'm going to encourage you to go to vetsonmedia.com and look for the radio show tab, because if you do that, you can actually see us in the studio. And something that you're going to notice that's different is that Michelle is actually not sitting across from me. She's running the board today.
I am over here.
Yes. So hopefully everything's going well in the technical area.
If you can hear us, that's well.
But can they see us?
Oh, yeah, I can see you. Of course. What do you mean, can they see us? Yes, you're there. You're both looking at me like, who is this moron running the board right now? You're there. I see the look of disbelief in your face, and now you're typing on your keyboard. So, yes.
Well, it's just interesting because I'm looking at it on there, on
where?
On No Limits, on Vets on Media, and it's not there.
Mm.
Okay. All right. I'm going to stop micromanaging. Okay. So last weekend we were at the Wild Boomer Women event.
Yes.
And I shared with everyone my frustration with something that I've been dealing with. Over the last year, I have gone up 60 pounds. I have no energy. I'm completely the fatigue is totally out of control, and the weight gain is out of control. Well, I have something called Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which means I have no thyroid whatsoever, and I take a medication for it. It's a little pill. I take it every day, and everything is fantastic. Well, my levels were elevated, which I was like, this is great. Okay, now we know what's going on. Give me an increased dosage. But those dang doctors, they're so cautious, and they wanted to send me off to a specialist, to another endocrinologist. They wanted to do more blood work. I was like, we know what's going on here, just increase. And instead of just taking what they had initially said, I went back to my doctor again, and I advocated for myself and said, look, when you look at all of my symptoms, this makes complete and perfect sense. So he agreed to increase my dosage. And in just the last couple days, I've dropped 4 pounds. 4 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's how thyroid works. That's, the weight fluctuation is just crazy. So I feel really good. I feel really happy. And that's my exciting news of the week. So I'm really happy.
I can tell you're happy. I'm happy for you.
I'm so happy.
I am happy for you.
For those of you that are tuning in for the very first time, No Limits Radio Show is just a part of an amazing network. We're part of Vets on Media. Vets on Media was started by 2 combat veterans, and a lot of the shows here at Vets on Media are actually hosted by former military. Some of them are active duty, and I just want to, for all of the for all that serve our country, I just want to say thank you. And for the sacrifices that you and your family members make, I want to say thank you to all of you. And I want to give a big shout out to James. We miss you, and can't wait until you are back.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we won't talk about that right now.
Okay.
All right.
So today we have Lindsay's mom in studio. Nancy, welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So I met Lindsay several years ago when we were working on an event, and this was the first time that I learned about CFIDS, chronic fatigue immune dysfunction syndrome. Some people refer to it as chronic fatigue syndrome, and she later after we met, she started an organization called Bent But Not Broken. I don't know that a lot of people understand what chronic fatigue syndrome is. And I wanted you to come in, join us in the studio, talk a little bit about this. Let's talk about the misconceptions. Let's talk about the things that need to be done. And let's also talk about an upcoming fundraising event. And for those of you that are listening, if you go to the Facebook page, No Limits Radio Show, and post a question, we are going to be giving away 2 tickets to this event. So I want you to go there and post a question, and then we will reach out to the winner. Winner, chicken dinner.
We're not supplying chicken, so just so you know.
It's not on the right diet anyway.
No. Okay, so chronic fatigue. Let's talk about what it is.
Chronic fatigue syndrome. It is basically, it falls with an umbrella, because underneath chronic fatigue, your body will react. Different parts of your body react because your immune system will be dysfunctional. Your brain function will cease to exist at times. The weight gain up and down, which is similar to what you were talking about. However, it's not the same as the thyroid like you have. But it affects so many different parts of your body. And it's unfortunate because there's not a lot of education. And that's why Lindsay started Bent But Not Broken, because when she first acquired this illness about 14 years ago, she was in college. And I took her to every doctor under the sun throughout Arizona, and blood tests and every brain scans and brain mapping and all kinds of things that were done. I can't even list them all, but nobody could come up with a diagnosis. Nobody could say what was wrong with her. And the misconception by the public is that somebody is just lazy. Well, this particular disease typically hits primarily women, but not always, primarily women in their 20s and 30s, typically a type A personality, extremely athletic, and very intelligent. So why does it do that? I don't have an answer to that. But this was Lindsay.
So at that point, when you started taking her to all those doctors and trying to get an answer, what were the symptoms that she was having? Like, what was the catalyst for that?
She was incredibly tired all the time. And so, of course, people would think mononucleosis, which I had when I was young. So that's what I first went to. But no, it was not that. Besides the incredible tiredness, she would be in bed 20 hours a day and wake up and still be exhausted.
Now, at this time, she's in college.
She's in college.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I mean,
yes.
I would imagine that some people are even saying, well, you're in college, you're supposed to be tired.
Correct. But this was her last 2 years of college. She was, she had 2 different degrees. She was an A student in college. This was now the latter part of her junior year, and she ceased to exist. So the professors had already seen her performance. They knew her capabilities. It really had nothing to do with college life. She was, as she explains herself, and sorry about this, Lindsay, but she was a nerd. She studied and she really jumped into the classes. And so she wasn't the typical partier. She's a tomboy. She'd be out exercising and throwing footballs instead of really out doing the party.
Right. So when medicine here didn't work, you guys ended up leaving the country.
When she was in college, and it got to the point where she was in the hospital for a month due to her liver failing, and almost lost her because
now hold on a second. Okay, her liver failing. So
correct.
I know at some point during this process, doctors were saying this is depression, this is in her head. Mm-hmm. So when there's an actual symptom, liver failing, what did they attribute that to?
That was to the drugs they had her on. They had her on 9 different prescriptions when she was in college. And because of those prescriptions, it started shutting down things. It was poisoning her liver, and she was in the hospital there. There were no answers here. I was desperate, and I heard about a hospital outside of the country, And I spoke to someone who had personally been there. Well, when you're a mom and your child is sick, you'll do anything. And that's exactly what I did. I made arrangements for us to go to the International Biometric Hospital, and I took Lindsay there. Within 4 days, they were able to tell me what was wrong with her. And their education on the topic was far superior to anything that anybody had explained to me. And I had already been to no less than 20 some doctors. I asked, why could they find that? And we couldn't find this here in the best country in the world. Their blood tests are done to a greater degree than ours. And they showed me on their computers where they took it beyond a normal blood test and how they came to the conclusion that they came to. And then they had a plan, which was the first time in a couple of years I'd had any hope.
Well, okay, so this is great. You've got a diagnosis, you have a plan. So easy peasy, everything's perfect now?
No, because this is a fairly new illness that it's not new to the world, but new to people hearing about it. And so the treatment of it is almost experimental.
But I would imagine that it's always been here. I mean, this isn't a new illness. This
Correct.
has always been, but it's likely been attributed to depression or being lazy. Or is that what you're?
That, and people would put it into a category of mononucleosis.
Okay.
And so that just was a catch-all for anything that had anybody tired. It was mononucleosis. However, it wasn't. And as we found in many medical situations now, as we progress in the world with the scientists and the computers, they can absolutely take apart what they're looking at and find more solutions.
So what did the plan look like? Is there medication? Is
They
it
talked
diet?
about doing stem cell injections,
Okay.
which were not able to be done in the United States at that time.
Right.
And for those of you who don't understand what that is, if you like football, Peyton Manning, who's major football Broncos star, and I happen to like the Broncos, he actually went over to Europe to get stem cell injections for his neck injury. And when I try to explain stem cell injections to most people, if I relate it to chronic fatigue syndrome, they don't understand. If I relate it to football and Peyton Manning, they get it.
Well, I think there's also a lot of controversy around stem cells.
There is.
Stem cell injections, the research.
Correct.
And my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that that's because in some cases, stem cells are used from embryonic fluid.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Well, and they can also be used from animals.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And they had a way at this particular hospital to scan your body and find out where you were deficient. And deficient at this time. It may not be that way in a month from now, but at this time. So they were able to know which animals were they needing to take the fluid from for your needs.
So she got the injections.
Yes.
And then how did that change her life? Did it make a difference?
They explained to me that it would take 4 to 5 months before she would see any difference. And in that 4 to 5 months where she continued to feel so sick and tired and not a lot of hope,
Mhm.
it was very hard to get her through those months to keep thinking, maybe. There was no guarantee. And this is something that they've been just in recent years trying to help with. So at about the 5-month time, all of a sudden, like a light switch, she started feeling better. And it kept getting better and better and better. And she had a span of probably about 6 years where she never became that ill again. She had dips, but not as ill as she was in college. But after 6 years, it came back, and it came back with a vengeance. So we redid the process, went back to the hospital, redid it again.
And then again, she had another 6 years.
No, this time it has not lasted as well. And she did not get as positive results this time around as she did last time.
You know, with 1.2 million Americans having this illness, I'm surprised that more isn't being done within, in the United States. I'm surprised that there aren't more advances, more research. I
agree with you. But because of the lack of understanding, and the misconception of the illness, there's a book out called You Don't Look Sick. And they reference Bent But Not Broken in their research in the back. Because if you were to look at Lindsay when she's feeling good, she's a beautiful, intelligent, vibrant young woman.
Yep.
And she could sell you a bucket with a hole in it when she's on. But when she's off, the thing that is the most frustrating for her is, in addition to health issues that you have as far as being tired and eating disorders, and you acquire food allergies throughout all of this, the worst part for her is the brain, because it affects your thought process. You cannot take a thought from A to B.
And I know that Lindsay wanted to be here with us today. This happens to be one of those time periods
Yes.
where she's in that dip, and she really wanted to be here, and I could tell that she was really upset that she couldn't be here. As her mom, I'm sure that you've seen it, and I as moms, we know when our kids are faking it, and we know when they're really sick. For the people that are listening or that are watching this, and maybe they're struggling with it, maybe they have a family member, are there things that diet, nutrition, are there natural things that can be done to help alleviate the symptoms? Is there only option to go to Mexico and get this blood test done? Or
No, you have to do everything right. And she does. And it takes a very disciplined person to do this, because you have to eat so healthy. She has acquired a gluten allergy, a dairy allergy. She stays away from lots of different foods that would put toxins or different things in her body. She eats all organic, and she and her new husband both cook at home most of the time, because when you go to a restaurant, even though they can tell you it's gluten-free, if it hasn't been prepared properly, you're sick. And as far as the food allergies, those were not there in college. They were acquired as the illness progressed.
So by watching what she's eating and by watching that intake, is it helping?
It helps, but it doesn't.
But it's not the answer.
No. And it is a lifelong change of life. You live differently. The way Lindsay was before this illness, she was extremely athletic. She's a tomboy, so she'd always be out throwing the football with people. She was a horse lover. She rode English riding. She competed in championships. All of that is gone. And now, when she did finally graduate from college, she had a couple of degrees. She tried to go into those fields, but she could not do a 8 to 5 days a week. She might be able to do it for a couple of weeks, but then she'd be in bed for a week.
Right.
So she started her own company. And this way, when Lindsay's feeling well, she can work. When she's not, there's nobody who's going to fire her.
Right. Well, I thought it was when I heard that she started Bent But Not Broken. I mean, the name, it so perfectly describes,
It does, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. So the purpose of Bent But Not Broken, what was the mission?
The mission of Bent But Not Broken is to provide emotional, educational, and financial resources to patients and their caregivers living with chronic fatigue every single day. And the reason why is because when Lindsay acquired this and her brain came back on, she started doing research. And she found that there are some companies researching this disease, but nobody was helping the patients who had it today.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was helping their caregivers today. So when you talked about getting your medical treatment and you needed to be an advocate, anyone who has a chronic illness or an illness like yourself, if you can't be your own advocate, you need a caregiver so that that caregiver can be your advocate when your brain is not working.
Right.
And Bent But Not Broken is there for the patient and the caregivers. They are not a grant-funded charity, so the only way that they have proceeds that they can help patients with is from fundraising. And that's what we do to try and help the patients.
And this fundraising supports those that are in the United States. I know that you've gotten some requests from as far as Japan.
Japan, Australia, a young lady, although it's part of the United States, Hawaii. There are many people. And interestingly enough, I have 2 cousins that we've lived spread across the country that I have more conversations with now than I did even growing up, because one of them has this illness and they found Lindsay's site on the internet, didn't know it was my daughter. And we have now connected again because of this.
Wow.
So is the illness hereditary, or do they not know?
They do not know, because I've asked that question because that's something that Lindsay is interested in knowing, because obviously if she were to have a child, she said to me, Mom, I wouldn't have a child if I knew this could be hereditary. I would not want to give this to anyone else to live with.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a big, and the other issue is, besides having a child to possibly pass it on to, is having a child that are you going to be well enough to take care of?
Sure. Sure.
So it robs you of the certainty of a lot of things.
Wow.
But the Bent But Not Broken, the charity itself is set up where people can go to the site and request financial aid. And by doing that, it's reviewed by her board of directors. And there might be a mother who has this, who just needs help with childcare. There might be someone who's a single mom who needs help, with a car payment, with something that she just can't do it on her own. So all of that is reviewed.
Wow. And what kind of support do caregivers need?
Caregivers actually need a lot of support, because I've been doing this for the last 14 years. And one of the problems with being a caregiver is I'm a mom. So obviously I have unconditional love and I'm always going to be there for her. But when someone has this illness, they get frustrated. They get mean sometimes. They get angry because they don't want their life to be this way. They sometimes become ungrateful. And you have to realize that's not them.
Right.
And when you might get your feelings hurt every now and then, you need to learn to let it go, because this person needs your support. They need you to say, I hear you. I understand. I'm here for you no matter what.
And I know that there is a big event coming up, and this is a fundraising event. We actually, my daughter and I went to one of the cut-a-thon fundraisers last weekend. There are events all throughout the year. There are a lot of, I want to share with everyone the link. If you go to bentbutnotbroken.org, the social links are there, resources are there, ways that you can get involved, events, everything is there. There is a casino night coming up. So share with
Yes.
everyone about that.
I'll add to what you just said about the site. There are a lot of people that have questions, family members especially. They can go to her site, and the questions that you have, I can promise you they're answered on that site.
Okay.
Because I've been asked by many people, and on the top of my head, I can't answer every single question. But if you go to that site, there are a lot of answers for you. And at that site also is where you can buy tickets for this next week. October 4th is actually the biggest fundraiser of the year for Bent But Not Broken. And this is our second annual Hold'em and Fold'em Casino Night, which this year is going to be held at the Homestead Community Center and DC Ranch up in Scottsdale. And we start at 6 o'clock. The tickets are $75. If you are a poker player and you want to join into our poker challenge, that is a $250 buy-in, which provides you 2 tickets to come as well. There's open bar, food, dancing, live music. our event last year was such a major success that nobody wanted to go home. It was so much fun. And there's a lot of work involved with this to put this together. And unfortunately, right now, Lindsay is not feeling very well. So we've really rallied the troops and pulled in to try and get everybody to make this another wonderful event. And again, it's October 4th, this next Saturday, at the Homestead Community Center in DC Ranch. You can go to the website, bentbutnotbroken.org, and there's a place to purchase tickets there, either with a credit card or PayPal. We'd love to see anyone and everyone who would love to come learn more about this, and especially have a good time that night, because one of the things that is important to Lindsay is there's a lot of sadness about having this illness. She doesn't want her fundraisers to be that way. She wants them to be fun, to be full of life, and for people to come and enjoy themselves and help a great cause at the same time.
Now, having not been to the one last year, is there also some component through the night that provides some education and talks about what this illness looks like?
Yes, at some point during the evening, Lindsay hopefully will get up and address the crowd. In addition to that, because she wants it to be an uplifting and fun experience, there will be literature there and things that will explain things. There are board members there, of course, floating, that will answer any question anyone has. And you can speak to Lindsay personally. But for this event, she tends to try and keep it lively, and the
Sure.
music. And it's so much fun. And people come dressed up. It's cocktail attire. And I can't say enough. I had so much fun last year that I didn't want to go home either.
Well, it looks like you have you have a couple good restaurants, and you have Dirty Tequila there sponsoring it. And now that's $75 to get in, because it is an open bar.
Yes, it's
So-
an open bar and all the food you can eat.
And now, as far as the casino tables, do you have to buy chips in that, or do you get a certain amount with your entry?
You get a certain amount with your entry, and there's blackjack and roulette and all the games that you'd see in the casino. But the poker tables themselves, if you want to be a part of that poker tournament, that's a $250 buy-in that gets you 2 tickets plus your chips to start off with.
That's a great deal.
Yeah.
I love blackjack.
It's fun. And actually this year we have lowered the price to $75 for general admission, because last year it was $150 and we packed the house.
Wow.
And we lowered it because she wanted more people to be able to come and enjoy it. And so this way 2 people can come for the price of 1 person last year.
$75, open bar, food, fun, music. Are you kidding me?
You'd pay more for that if you just went out for dinner one evening.
That's true.
So there's no excuse not to come.
And we're giving away 2 free tickets.
Yes.
So go to the Facebook page, No Limits Radio Show, post a comment question there, and you might be the winner of those 2 tickets. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing with our listeners about this illness. I'm really hoping that Lindsay is feeling better.
Thank you.
In time for the event, and that we'll all get to see her.
I hope so too, because she's the star and she makes it happen. So for anyone out there that is a caregiver that also needs some support, it is on that website, or you can come and see me at the event. My name's Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy. And for anyone that's not in the area and that really wants to support this cause, go to bentbutnotbroken.org. There's a donate button right there, so you can definitely donate. Find lots of resources, information, get connected. Well, this has been very enlightening. Nice information. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We have a very short show today.
We do. Sports season has started, and I have a son playing in about 2 minutes, and Christina has a son playing in 32 minutes. So this was a short, concise show, and we'll have the WWW back next week.
Yep. Next week, we have a very full show. We've got Linda Stanfield from Benjamin Franklin Plumbing. Madison Rising, the lead singer, David Bray, is going to be joining us over the phone. Hopefully.
Deja vu.
We've had scheduling conflicts before, so hopefully we're going to have Margie Bonds with
Margie Barnes.
Margie Barnes with Military Assistance Mission is going to be in studio. There's also a IFDMA is a charity event that's doing a fundraiser where they're auctioning off chairs, the most unique, incredible, artistic chairs that you've ever seen. They're actually going to be on display. I'll post some information about where you can go and see them, and the gala event, which is in a couple weeks. But someone from their organization is going to be here in studio. So we are going to have the most jam-packed Saturday next Saturday. So I think
So,
that's it.
On
That's
that
it
note,
for today.
I think that's
Yeah.
it. So
All
I'm
right.
Michelle.
I'm Christina, and just one more thing, please.
She said that was it, but it's never it with Christina. Anyway, go ahead, ma'am.
Okay,
Tell me.
Just one more thing. Go to vetsonmedia.com to check out all the other great shows. If you like sports, JD's Rockin' Sports is on at 11 o'clock right here on vetsonmedia.com. I'm Christina.
And I'm Michelle.
Great.
Oh, say, can you see by